to the social work group. This is 822, and we're talking about research and assessment. So I'm going to go over just some basic terms. Again, most of us have some PTSD when it comes to this, right? We're going, oh my gosh, I can't do this, because we often had a teacher that just wasn't so great. And not that they didn't know what they were doing, they often just didn't speak our language, okay? So you'll often see the bell curve. What the heck, right? So the bell curve is broken into parts, okay? So that's a rule. It's the 68, 95, 99 rule. Let me screen share again. Okay. If you don't see my screen, then go out and come back in. And mute yourself when you come back in. Okay. So the bell curve is a fact. One of the things that I like about math is it is facts, right? It doesn't matter how you feel. 2 times 2 will always equal 4. The 68, 95, 99 rule will always be the same. It will never change. Okay? So the assumption is there are 100 people in the world, right? Okay, so whether we're looking at IQ or what they like for dinner, all of those things, it's the lineup on this bell curve when it's a perfect skew, a perfect distribution. So what that means is that mean, the mean is the average, right? I take those numbers up, I have 5 numbers, I add them together, I divide by 5, that's my exact average. The mode, that's the number that appears the most often. And then the median, that's the number that's in the exact middle, okay? When all of those numbers are the exact same, I get a perfect distribution. So in the middle, if you see the U right there, that is my sign for standard deviation, okay? So you'll see in the middle right here, that's going to be 50, okay? So what I know then is less than, so it goes down this way or up this way. So 50 is going to be my exact middle. Okay? So half the people are below and half the people are above. So the 68% comes from 34 and 34 on each side. Okay, let's break it down for you. I'll give you a very simple one. You want to mute yourself for me? Okay, so like I said, the 68, 95, 99 is a rule. Math is full of rules, okay? So like I said, 68, 95, 99, the assumption is that in all the world, 99.73% people, almost everybody, would fit in on this bell curve. The majority of us, 68%, that is 2/3 of America, are in the middle, okay? So even when it comes to like politics, 2/3 of us are really in the middle. There are some people who have extreme left views and people have extreme right views, but in general, the majority of us are going to be in the middle. Okay, so breaking that down, what I know then is that half the people are going to be below. Okay, so that was my 50, right? That's the middle. So half the people would be below and half the people would be above. But my first standard deviation, which is 68, includes 34 and 34 from both sides. Okay, so 34 below, 34 above, that's still a standard deviation. That's all that means. Okay, the second standard deviation, I add them together. I add the blue, the pink, right? Add them together. That's where my 95, and then I add the green to it. And that's where my 99 comes from. Okay, simple, right? That is your standard bell curve. Okay. Okay, so 68, 95, 99, those are just rules. Will never change. Okay, that's what I just talked about. Okay, bell curve, 34 and 34 are my 68, 95, 99. That's where that comes from. The correlation coefficient, you will see this on there as well, okay? The correlation is the relationship. The coefficient is the number that tells me the how close the relationship is. So correlation is the relationship, how they correlated, and the coefficient is the number. Perfect correlation is a -1 or a +1. Okay, that just means if you move that decimal over, it's 100%. It's a perfect match. Okay, so if you watch daytime TV, and I'm sure people are now home with COVID more than they were before, and you're watching that, I think it's Maury Povich, and he's got the baby DNA and he's got the daddy DNA, and he says, "You're a match. It's 99.97% a match." That's all that means, is the correlation between the dad's DNA and the baby's DNA matches. And we say 99 point blah, blah, blah. It just means 100%, right? You can't get any better than a perfect match. So that's all that means. I'm looking for the correlation, the relationship between these two things. Okay. So if I wanted to look at, okay, if you want to get bumped out and come back in, please mute yourself. So if I wanted to look at the relationship, I think where I live, there's definitely not as many cars on the road. I have to go to work a couple days a week. And when I go to work, I used to have to wait in traffic forever. And now there's no traffic. So I would guess there's a correlation between like the COVID cases, maybe people working from home, and traffic. I do. I think there's a relationship there. So I could research that and tell you how those things are closely related. So that's what that means when I'm doing a correlation. Okay. The lowest I will take on a correlation, again, just facts, is 0.70. It doesn't matter if it's a positive or negative. Just know that's the lowest I can accept on a correlation. Okay. So if you think perfect correlation is 100, I'll accept a C. Okay. I'm not sure on the Maury Povich show if they told me it was a 70% chance that I was the baby daddy, if I'd buy that. But anyway, what we do know is for the test, 70% is what we'll accept. Okay. So correlation, that's the two things, and coefficient is the number. Okay. And we'll look at some of those questions. You'll see what it looks like. Okay. Reliability and validity. Validity is the most important. Is it valid? Okay. So when we were talking about some of the tests that you can buy or purchase, we don't know their validity. I don't know how they relate to the real test. The only one that I can tell you that relates to the real test for sure is going to be the ASWB practice exam, because that's written by the examiners. I can tell you that's a valid test. Okay. Validity is, does it do what it's supposed to do? Does it measure what it's supposed to measure? If I get a pregnancy test from the Dollar Tree, that's what we have here, okay? And you know what? And I get that, and the pregnancy test says that I'm not pregnant, and I still have a baby, that means it wasn't valid, right? Maybe it sat out in the sun, maybe it was expired, I don't know, maybe it was just a bad batch. I can buy 20 of those, right? They can be reliable over and over again. They can all say, Pam, you're not pregnant, you're not pregnant. And later I still have a baby because they weren't valid to begin with. Validity is the most important. Does it do what it says it's going to do? Okay. So some of the other tests, and again, I am not picking on anybody, I promise you, and I'll say the same thing about mine, unless they have proved valid by, like, you know, through research, I don't know that they're valid. Okay. So I do know they're reliable. If you take it over and over again, you'll probably get the same score, but it doesn't mean it's the right score. So reliability is consistency over and over again. Okay. Validity is the most important. Validity is, does a test measure what it's supposed to do? That's all that means. Is it valid? Validity is the first thing. Okay, we'll give you some of these tests often come up on there. The Stanford-Binet and the Wechsler are both IQ tests. IQ test, perfect IQ is 100. Okay. What we know is if you're below 70 on the IQ, that puts you in the the MMR range. Okay. So what we're looking for is just knowing that normal IQ, especially on the WAIS is the adult one. It's a normal. If you can see that, that's our IQ range. Those are amazing IQs. Okay. So if you'll see, average is 90 to 109. What that means is there is a standard error of measurement of 9. That means that in the test, if you're not above or not below or not above, we still consider that average because there may be some error in the test taking, the test giving, any of those things. So like 110 to 119 is high average. Most schools, if you've got a kid in a gifted school, most of them start at 130. Sometimes I've seen 123, depending on where you live. But if you see that we're at 70, okay, 70 is borderline impaired or delayed. Okay, so that's my WISC, which is for children, the Stanford-Binet, or my WAIS, and the WAIS is the one we're using for adults. So AI, WAIS, adults, WISC, okay, SC for children. It doesn't matter if it says 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 edition on there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change. Stanford-Binet is the oldest one we have. WAIS, adults, WISC, children younger than 16. The cutoff is 16, okay? So you'll see these also, my Rorschach and my thematic apperception test. Those both belong to Freud. Freud was unconscious, right? He's my unconscious guy. So whenever we're looking at him, we're looking for something unconscious. A thematic apperception test is your perception. What he would say is, look at these pictures and tell me what you see, okay? So what Freud did, again, he was my unconscious guy. His goal was to bring everything from the unconscious to the conscious, okay? These tests are called projective and subjective. I'm projecting, right, from my unconscious onto this picture. So he would ask you what you saw. And it's subjective because it was his opinion of whether or not you were wrong or right. Okay. Anybody be brave enough? Tell me what you see. What is your perception of this picture? Unmute yourself and be brave.
Dr. Pam, it's
yes.
Renee.
Yes, Renee.
So to me, it looks like a teacher observing a student in some kind of chemistry or science class.
Okay.
Maybe she's experimenting on something.
Got it, got it, got it. And Freud would say, well, you're wrong. No, he wouldn't. He would say to you that, no, but he would say to you, oh, so did you have issues when you were a kid? Was school hard for you? Because he believes that you were projecting that stuff on the inside onto the picture. Okay. If you can't see the screen, go out and come back in. okay? Especially if you're on a Mac or something, something that's not a Dell, but go out and come back in. Also, in general, sit as close as you can to your Wi-Fi router. I've said to you before, I have Ethernet. I'm hardwired, so I have like amazingly fast internet. So it ain't me. Just so you know. Okay, so I teach from home. I have a business online, so I promise you I have really, really good internet. Okay, so it's thematic apperception, is your perception. And there were a couple of them, right? So he would give you like 20 of them, 15 of them, and you would go through and just kind of tell him what you saw. Okay. And again, he told you what that meant. That's called the thematic apperception test. It is your perception, and he would tell you again what he thought that meant. The other one, of course, is the Rorschach. The Rorschach is the same as your ink blot. Right? Same sort of thing. Those are projective because they're coming from your unconscious, and they are subjective because it's his opinion. So objective tests are like the whisk, right? Those are facts. You scored a number on your IQ, that's what it is. Subjective, again, is someone's opinion. So Alexa, what's the current temperature?
Right now, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, that's a fact. That's objective. It is 80 degrees where I live. Okay. If I think it's hot or cold, that's my opinion. That is subjective. Okay. So facts, objective, opinions, subjective. You might see the MMPI as well. If you've had me before in any of my videos, I always tell you that's the level of crazy. That is certainly not a real personality, not a how nice you are personality test. It is really looking at your psychopathology. The MMPI is one of the oldest tests that we have. It's been around forever and ever. It's 567 questions. They're yes and no questions, and they're written so that you're not supposed to be able to lie. Okay. If you have watched like I think it's the Silence of the Lambs, the part 2, or any other where someone's in court or in prison, you'll see them asking the same questions. It starts the same way all the time. Do you like auto mechanics? Let me find out the test. So again, it doesn't matter whether you see the MMPI test, I mean the MMPI 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. There's a newer version, it doesn't matter. Just know that you're looking at, again, deviances in your personality, not how nice you are. It is used many times in the military. It's used for police departments sometimes. Okay, so after the questions, what you'll get is you'll get a differentiation. Are you a hypochondriac? Are you depressed? You have hysteria, psychopathic deviant, right? So those are the terms that I'm looking for. And the tests, again, always start the same way. They are written so that you cannot lie. Okay, they start off very benign. I like mechanics magazines. I have a good appetite. I wake up fresh and rested most mornings, and you're firing the questions. You're going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So the client doesn't have time to think about it, right? They're just answering those questions. And they start off pretty cool, but then you get one like I have diarrhea once a month or more. Let's see here. During one period when I was a youngster, I engaged in petty thievery. I have never been in trouble because of my sex behavior. I do not always tell the truth. A minister can cure disease by praying and putting his hand on your head. So all of those things then really it will tell us what kind of where they would fall at under those categories. So again, just know it's not the nice test of how sweet you are. That is looking at it's your pathology, your deviance, the oldest test that we have. The Beck's depression scale. Now, I'm not seeing that actually on the test. What I've seen is it referred to. So if they're giving you a depression inventory, it's going to be the Beck's. Okay. The higher you score on the Beck's, the more concerned I am about your suicidality. Okay, so I've seen a question that talks about, so they gave the Beck's exam, first, second, and third, or 3 times during the treatment, and because I want to see if my treatment is working, right? So those are objective, those are factual exams. They've been empirical based, they've been tried and true. Beck is CBT, right? Okay, so this depression scale looks at, and he also has a Beck's anxiety scale. Okay, the MBTI, that's the one, it's how nice you are. Okay, and most often you can find one of these. That's the 16 personality test. You can usually find one of these if you've not done one before. I used to do them with couples when I was doing private practice, but it really is kind of looking at your personality. They're kind of cool, just so you know, like what your personality is and what the person is maybe you're marrying, things like that. Okay, so those are the ones with the 16 choices. Are you an extrovert, an introvert? Are you sensing or intuitive? Okay. I like this one. How do I make decisions? How do I prefer to make decisions? I base my decisions on personal values and how the actions affects others. I value harmony and forgiveness. I like to please others and point out the best in people. Basically, I make decisions with my heart, not my head. Okay, so you can find the full scale. Usually there's a free one out there if you're not sure where you go, but that is the Myers-Briggs, MBTI, Myers-Briggs personality inventory. Okay, that is the Myers-Briggs. So just don't get that confused with the MMPI. Okay. Qualitative and quantitative research. I'm freaking out. She said research. So quantitative are the numbers. 5 out of 6 doctors prefer Crest. Okay. Those are the numbers. Quantitative research always looks at cause and effect. This caused this. Okay. Qualitative research is the quality. When you hang up today, Skype, we usually ask you how you enjoyed Skype today, or did it work for you, and you rate it from a scale from 1 to 5. That's quantitative. I'm sorry, that's qualitative. How was your quality? How did you enjoy the service that Skype provided? Okay, so I'm not measuring those in numbers. That is measured in feelings, right? How did you feel about it today? Okay. Neither one is better than the other. Okay, quantitative has been around longer. Qualitative is the newer one. Both have something to offer the field of research, so not one is not better than the other. A true experiment. A true experiment has two groups. So we've seen lots of true experiments when it comes to COVID, right? So I've got 100 people who sign up randomly, they sign up. I put them in group A or group B. One is the control group. They get nothing. The experimental group gets the medication, right? That's just what it looks like. So what I know then is a true experiment, randomized, okay? You don't know which one you're getting, you don't know whether you're getting the placebo or whether you're getting the real drug. You just don't know. Okay. So then when I'm working in an agency, I cannot use a true experiment. You cannot come to my agency thinking you're getting treatment today and I really gave you the placebo. That's unethical. So when you see on the test, what kind of research would you do with your agency? It's going to be a quasi-research. A quasi-research means it's not randomized. That's all it means. So for example, let's say that, at your office, the psychiatrist is trying some new medication, right? It's you saw the commercials on TV, right? They're trying some new medication, and he wants to see if it works for the patients. So the patients can sign up for it. They can say, wow, I want to try this. Okay. So I know which ones have the new drug and I know which ones have the placebo or the ones that have the old drug. That's ethical because they know they're on an experimental drug. So that is quasi because it's not randomized. So quasi is the only one that you can do in your agency. Now I see a whole lot like the ABAB design. Sorry, hold on. That's my dog chewing her bone. Sorry, thank you, Denise. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me just move her. Sorry about that. I thought I had on my best noise canceling headphones. I do apologize. Okay, so quasi-experimental, like I said, that is the one that is randomized. A lot of times what you'll see, and you think this is the right answer, is that single subject design. That is my ABAB design, right? Single subject is what you do every day. You have a client come in and you take a baseline, right? So the A is the baseline. The client comes in, you ask them, so how long have you been depressed? How many days has it been since you've showered? When's the last time you and your wife had sex? You're getting a baseline, right? That is first. Then I'm going to do my intervention, okay? So if it's depression, of course, I'm going to use a CBT and medication because that's what works. And then I'm going to do my intervention, and then I'm going to go back and take another baseline. Did it work? So ABA is a single subject design. Baseline, intervention, baseline. You do it all of the time. Okay? ABAB replicates that. So that makes it that replication, right? Lets me know that this worked or it didn't work. So again, baseline, intervention, baseline, intervention. Okay, so this examples of the classroom. And what they're looking at is the percent of time studying. So the first thing they did is I took a baseline. So the kids are studying about 20%, right? The first week of school. They give an intervention, which is positive attention. So she gives an intervention and she sees, wow, it looks really well. So then she goes back and takes a baseline. It improved it a little bit, but not, it's up where it was. But let me do it again. Let's see what happens. So a single subject design can be done with one person or with one group. ABA is the single subject. ABAB is the best one because I've replicated it. Okay, so put some of these things in the chat box, guys. So remember, everything I put in the chat box will be there for 30 days. And also the recording will be there when we finish. I'll come back later and put in the YouTube link also, but they're here for 30 days. Curve. Okay. So let's go back and just again. So those are my types of research. Single subject design, I just talked about. An action research, that really is in the research, some action is going to be done. You're looking to improve an area of some area. So really, when it comes to those community questions, it really might be sorry about that, guys. So when you're looking at those community questions, you might be doing action research. You're getting the community together, and you're trying to get them to get together, so we can do some research on whether or not we need to, move the. Let's stop. So what we're looking at is whether we need to make some changes in the community, and our research will involve some action. Okay. Longitudinal studies, of course, those are a long time. That's how we know that cigarette smoking is bad, right? Because we know that the Marlboro Man back in the day was cool and everybody smoked. And the high schools had a smoking hall. If you were 18, you'd go smoke with the teachers. I have friends who are nurses, and they used to tell me there was a place you could smoke in the hospital with the doctors. And now we know that smoking is dangerous, right? That's longitudinal. It takes over a lifetime. It'll be very interesting to know. And, 10, 20 years from now, we'll look at the longitudinal research on COVID, right? We'll see. We won't know now. And I promise you, there's nothing on the test about COVID. There's nothing that will be on the test about COVID anytime soon. Okay. So cross-sectional is a snapshot. If I ask you, I want to know what people buy for dinner from Walmart at it's 7 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock. I would ask you all to go to your own little cities, right? And stand there for 10 minutes and interview the people that are coming from out of Walmart. That's a cross-sectional. It is people that are there at the same time, many groups, same time. I'm taking a snapshot of what people are buying today. Okay, these terms are often on there: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay, those are terms of measurement. Okay. Nominal gives me the least amount of data. That is just categories. Okay, so if I'm looking at number of men, number of women, doesn't give me any order. It just gives me categories. Okay. Ordinal data is order. First, second, third, fourth. That's the order. Interval is time. Okay, so my clock ticks every minute. The thermometer goes up every the digits it goes up. It's consistent amount of time. And then ratio has a true zero. So if I'm doing some research and quantitative data belongs to interval and ratio, because those are numbers, and I find out that 0 of 7 doctors prefer Crest, okay, I can have a true zero. So that's ratio. 3 out of 4, 5 out of 6, 7 out of 10. That's my ratio data. Nominal and categories gives me the least amount of information. Ordinal is order. My son's team came in 3rd place this year, right? You all know that, you team moms. And interval, again, of course, is then the time. So those are always on there, knowing those as well. Okay. Let's talk just a little bit about those that variable. And oh my gosh, those independent variables. Let me do this one. Okay. Sampling. So a couple of things with sampling. Random sampling is everybody has the same chance, right? I go stand outside of Walmart and I pick just whoever. They have all the same chance. Stratified, you'll see that term in community as well. Stratified means I'm putting you in groups, whether it's ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, whatever. That's stratified sampling. So for example, if I am doing research and I want my research to mimic the college that's around my school. So let's say if the college is 40% white and it's 30% African-American, and then it's 20%, I can't add, 20% Hispanic, then what I want to do is make sure that my population that I've chosen to research matches the population of the school. We'll see stratified often in the community because if we're looking at homogeneity, many times we're not including everybody. So when we're doing our research, we want it to be proportionally stratified. So if in your, again, a community question, you're looking at the community is 60% white and it is 40% black, then if we do it proportionally stratified, we have 6 white people and 4 black people, that definitely doesn't get us the consensus that we want sometimes. Okay, but you'll see those terms both in research as well as those community. Cluster sampling, remember, reach back into the recesses of your brain. Remember back that day? Cluster sampling is geographical. I'm getting everybody on the street corner, everybody that lives in my zip code, all the 5th graders on the 5th floor. That's all that means. Okay. Just want to go back to my independent and dependent variables. So you'll have one or two of those on a question, on the test. My independent variable is the one that changes the dependent variable. Okay. So what I say, stop sharing here for a minute. My bottle of water. My bottle of water, it just, it didn't taste very good. I drink water all day, every day. I have like so much water, really. Okay. But it just not tasting very good. I've kind of just, it's not working out well for me. So I want to change the taste of my water. Can the water go down to the kitchen and do something by itself? It cannot. It cannot. So it is dependent on what I do. So let's say tomorrow I think, wow, Pam, let's try some lime. I go downstairs, I squeeze a lime in my water. The lime is the independent variable, right? Because it affects the taste of my water, which is the dependent variable. I measure the change in my dependent variable. Oh, my water tastes better. It's dependent on what the independent variable does. Okay. Let's say the lime was good, but let me go ahead and try a lemon tomorrow. Go downstairs tomorrow. I get a lemon. I put a lemon in my water. Another independent variable, right? Water can't add lemon by itself, lime by itself. Squeeze the lime in my water. Taste my water. Dependent variable. This measures the change, right? And then if I have 2 IVs, lemon and lime, that's a t-test. That's all that means. 2 independent variables, 1 dependent variable. That's a t-test. My water there. Okay, that's all that means. So think about your child or yourself. You've been sick, right? Your body's a dependent variable. Oh, I can't get better. I want to get better and I can't get better. I can't get better by myself. Okay. So the doctor gives me an antibiotic. That's an IV, right? The IV goes into my system and changes me, the DV. I'll know if the IV worked if I got better. The changes in me, the changes in a dependent variable. Okay, so IV, DV. If you have kids, they take them to the doctor because he got a cold the first time he gave him something. And he's like, oh my gosh, my baby's not getting better. I go back, he gives him something else, right? He gave him maybe some steroids the first time, right? That's the independent variable. Trying to get my baby better because he's not feeling good. Oh, he's not feeling good. I'm a mom and I'm freaking out. My baby's dying. He's dying. Like, sorry, Pam, he only has a cold, but he's dying. Okay, so the first time he gives him a steroid pack, right? He didn't get better. I go back for 2 weeks later and I'm like, my baby's still sick. So now he gives me a different antibiotic. Again, 2 IVs on my baby, the DV, the sickness. I know it's the DV because that's where I measure the change. If my baby got better, it's because one of those IVs worked. Again, and if I use 2 IVs, that's a t-test. Okay. Really, really not that hard. Math are facts. And if you've had me before, I don't ever say memorize anything, but math are just facts, just facts. Okay. Let's look at some of those questions. I'm so glad. I just want to demystify all of those numbers. And most of the time, my clients don't even study for the test. They don't even study the research parts. And you're giving away free points. It's like they're sitting on the table when it's just a memory. It's just a memorization. Let me close some windows out, guys. So you guys, I'm going to pull this up. So you know that I have a dog, and my daughter left her dog with me too. So I didn't realize that like dogs like to be with people. I knew my dog liked to be with me, but I didn't realize in general dogs like to be with people. So I'm finding that no matter where I go, they're with me. Oh my gosh, this is like bizarre. Okay, so the perils of living by yourself. I'm figuring this out as I go along. Okay, I want to share my screen, and this is the time that you get to interact. Ask me any question, something you've seen, something I've gone over, something you've seen on the test. It didn't make any sense.
Hey, Dr. Pam.
Hello.
I had a question, but not in regards to research. It was a light bulb moment. I do
Okay.
like that. Thank you so much. But my question was in regards to the LCSW when they break down the ASWB tells you the topics that you should know about. It said partializing techniques, and I didn't know what they were talking about.
Oh, partializing is how you eat an elephant. So it really is a typical question is a client comes in with 17 things he needs to get done. She reports that her husband left her, her kid has diabetes, she's behind on the rent, she wants a job, and the other kid is a lesbian. So then I'm going to partialize. I'm going to help her figure out what's the most important thing. It's another term for prioritizing.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Good question. Okay. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay. The correlation coefficient that is not possible. I know that 100 is perfect. Okay. Which of these is not possible? 1 is 0, 2 is -60, 3 is 1.0, or 4 is 1.26. That is correct. It is 4. If I said 100 is perfect, you can't get any higher than that. 0 means there's no correlation, that these two things are not remotely related. A good example of something that has a high correlation is the SAT and the ACT. So for your kids that are going to college, or back in the day when you went to college, that many schools took either the SAT or the ACT. It didn't matter, right? Because the assumption is that if I either one of them, I'm going to get a passing score. If I do well on the SAT, I'll do well on the ACT. Okay. So that one has like a 0.9, I think it's like 0.96 correlation. Okay. -0.60 is too low. That's a possible correlation, but I would not accept it. Okay. So let's go down and kind of look at another one of those. So look at number 6. Correlation is also known as the R value. So if you see the R value, all that means is the correlate. Ooh. So I tried to make it bigger and it lost my screen. There we go. 6. The closer the R value gets to 1, so 1 is perfect, correlation coefficient is perfect. So the closer it gets to 1, what is it? The weaker, the stronger, the more inverse, or has nothing to do with association? Got it. 1 is perfect. Okay. -1, +1, it doesn't matter. It's perfect. So the closer you get to 1, the stronger the association. So perfect match, right? So that baby has a DNA of, the match between the baby and the daddy is like 99.75. I'm just telling you, that's probably the daddy, right? Look at number 7. The source of illness among smokers can be conclusively and unequivocally proven by what? Descriptive, longitudinal, experimental, epidemiological.
Two.
Two, longitudinal, right? That's what I said before. We know the long-term illness of smokers. Okay, number 4. What is the study of epidemiology? What is that?
I'm done with this.
What?
What question are we on?
Number 4, I'm asking you number 7. Number 4, what is epidemiological evidence? It is not DNA. Dr. Fauci is an epidemiologist, guys. We all know him, right? It's the study of the spread of disease. Okay, epidemiology is the study of the spread. So that's what Dr. Fauci is famous for, right? How COVID started and how it spread to our community. Right? Everyone in this room should know that word because you watch some news at some point, Facebook, something, right? So epidemiology, that's all that means. And again, there's nothing on the test about COVID, but I just thought to point out the fact that he's an epidemiologist. Etiology, E-T-I-O-L-O-G-Y, the etiology is the beginning, what started the disease. Okay, so you might see that as well sometimes. Okay, so etiology is where it came from. Okay, so the cause, the manner, what started it, where did it come from? That's what that means. But epidemiology is the spread of it, the study of the spread of diseases. I know, now you know, you can sleep tonight, right? Look at number 9. Cross-sectional study. A is useful to study change. 2 examines the same group at 2 points in one time. 3 examines 2 groups at 1 point in time. Or 4 is a controlled experiment.
Is it 3?
Okay, exactly. It can be more than 2, but it's the same point in time. We're all at the Walmart, and I want to know what everybody buys. I'll tell you just a funny story. So I was a Girl Scout leader, been a Girl Scout leader forever. I've got 2 daughters who was in Girl Scouts. It was very funny to watch on Friday nights who bought what. So yeah, so we could see who bought the expensive beer every Friday night because we were all at different grocery stores selling cookies, and it was very kind of cool to see. The Hawthorne effect. Let's look at number 11. The director notifies the staff in January there'll be an ongoing study of the agency's processes for receiving patients, staff courtesy in the reception area, and the frequency from which clients have to wait for more than 10 minutes for their appointments. After 3 months, the director reports that with satisfaction, there have been a few problems. Almost everyone is seen on time, and the staff is extremely courteous to the clients. This is explained by what? Okay, Dawn, what is the Hawthorne effect?
People behave differently when they're observed.
Yes, bingo, that's it exactly. When I am being watched, I behave differently. That is exactly what that means. Very good, very good. Okay. Okay, here we go. 14. In study measuring whether people are willing to spend more or less time commuting to work, the level of measurement used is what?
Is it 1?
Ordinal is order, first, second, third, fourth. It's time.
Time.
Time is my interval. It is time. Okay. Interval always means time. Okay. You got it. That is time. Okay. Look at number 15. The highest degree of correlation is shown by what?
Is it 4?
Okay. It is. So I'm looking for the closest to 100, right?
Yes.
Okay. If it said -80, that would have been okay too. Because it doesn't matter if it's a negative, if one goes down, the other goes down. I'm fine with that. Okay. The goal is like whether or not we're looking at that relationship. Okay. 15.
We just did 15.
I'm sorry, 16. I can count. Thank you. The most frequent case. The most frequent case is the what? Okay. That is the one that appears the most often, right? That's all that means. So that's going to be my mode. The mode is the one that presents the most often. Okay. Okay, here we go. 17. A researcher tests the outcome of new medication, gives one group the drug and the other the placebo. The placebo is what? Dependent variable, independent variable, intervening, or antecedent? On number 17.
Number 2.
Okay. Someone be bright. Explain it to me.
So your independent variable is what changes the dependent variable. And
Okay.
so once the drug is given, it's changing what's going on.
Okay. So there are two independent variables here. One is the placebo. What's the other one?
True.
Yes, exactly. And I know whether or not it works or not based on the dependent variable, and that's the people in the group, right? If they get better, they're the dependent variable. So there are two independent variables. One is the placebo, one is the drug. That's called a t-test. Yes. Okay, I'm going to sneak this in here. You won't see it on your test probably, but if you add a third one, that's called an ANOVA. The analysis of variance. Remember way back in the day, the ANOVA? That's all that means. There are three independent and one dependent variable.
Can you spell the word you're saying?
I can. ANOVA is the analysis of variance. That's what that means. If I have two dependent variables, it is a t-test, but if I have more than two, it is ANOVA, the analysis of variance. That's all that means. Like, yeah, I heard that once back in grad school when I was crying between my tears, right, at my professor's desk. Okay, that's just me, I guess. Okay, we'll try this one again, like a 20 and 21. The researcher hypothesizes the greater the racial homogeneity among the members of the group, the greater the level of cohesion. Okay, so that's what his theory is. He's come up with this theory. In this situation, race is what? Dependent variable, independent variable, sampling variable, or intervening variable. He hypothesizes the greater the racial homogeneity. Homogeneity, remember we talked about that in group. It means the more the same they are. Okay, so in this situation, what is race?
Dependent.
Okay, tell me, talk to me, be brave. How do I know it's the independent? You said independent, right? How do I know?
Because race is the cause. I see it as cause and effect. So the greater the race, the greater the outcome. The greater the intervention, the greater the outcome.
Okay, so how will I measure the outcome?
You measure the outcome on the changes in the independence variable.
on the dependent variable. Okay.
Right, that's okay.
Okay. So a researcher hypothesizes the greater the homogeneity among the group, the greater the level of cohesion. So what he's measuring is the cohesion. So cohesion is the dependent variable, right?
Yes.
Because it tells me that's what he's measuring. So cohesion is the dependent. So then what I know is either he's going to look at the homogeneity or the heterogeneity, right? If they're alike or if they're different. So then race is my independent variable because that's what's going to change. Either they're racially alike or they're racially different. And then at the end, I'll know because the cohesion is my dependent variable. I will be able to know if it matters the race of my group members and how cohesive they are at the end. Did I lose anybody? Okay, let's try it again. Okay. So, go ahead.
Language. Can you explain that another
Of course. Okay. So what I know is, let me start with number 21. I'll go to 21. Okay, so the degree to which the dependent variable can be found, that's the dependent variable. That's where I measure the change, right? My water bottle is a dependent variable. So in this group, they are measuring cohesiveness, how tight groups are. So the dependent variable, I'll know whether or not it's how close they are is based on the cohesion. So the answer to 21 is A. The reflection of how they call themselves we. That's cohesiveness, right? We want a group to be tight. You know, the stages of group, right? We want to be tight. But in this particular issue, what he's measuring is, does it matter the race? Does that determine how cohesive they are? And I know that I measured cohesiveness, so that is the dependent variable. That's where the change will happen. So the independent variable is race. I can change the race. If they're all white, greater homogeneity maybe. If they're all black, greater homogeneity. If they're black, white, red, green, purple, then that may decrease the homogeneity. So I can manipulate the race. I can change the independent, but all that matters is I'm measuring the end is the cohesiveness. That's a dependent variable. Ask me questions.
So what's the answer, Dr. Pam?
The answer to 20 is going to be 2 and 21 is 1.
Thank you.
The dependent variable is how I know it worked. In this situation, I am measuring the closeness of the group. And in his research, he's got 2 independent variables, right? Racial homogeneity. So the assumption is he's got one group that's the same, one group that's different, right? But at the end, what matters is how cohesive they are. And that's what makes it my dependent variable. Go back and watch the video a couple of times and change the mindset that I can't do this because it's not true. You do this all the time. You take your kid to the doctor and you're wanting him to get better. Your kid, the COVID is the dependent variable, right? All the medicine you're taking in the medicine cabinet is the independent variable because you're hoping the cold gets better. Okay. Look at 24. One social worker with a caseload of twice as many as their colleagues reflects a measurement on the what? Twice as many.
Is that 1?
Okay. So twice as many.
I'm sorry, 4.
So nominal is categories. Nominal is I talk about like black people, white people, yellow people, men, women, those are categories. So twice as many is that ratio, right? 2 out of 3, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, those are ratios. Okay. 3 is correct. That is a ratio. It costs twice as many. That is a ratio. Okay. 27, I think I mentioned this one before, I might not have. The level of measurement that provides the least valid information. The one that has the least amount of information. That is it. That is my nominal. That is my categories. That is my categories. If I'm dividing my categories, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. Look at 28. Validity refers to what? If it is valid, what does that mean? 1, correspondence between the concept being measured and the measurement tool. 2, the extent to which different observers would get the same findings. 3, the method of sampling. 4, the existence of sufficient data to offer proof of the hypothesis.
4.
The existence of sufficient data to offer proof. Validity means, does it do what it's supposed to do? That's 1. Is it valid? Is it valid? Did this pregnancy test work or not? I know that none of you have ever swiped left or swiped right on any of those dating apps, but when you're swiping, what you're looking for is that they are valid, right? If the person you're meeting says that she is the former USA and she's 36, 24, 36, and she makes $50 million a year, aren't you going to Google her first to make sure that's true? Just saying, okay? She can be reliable. She can call me every day, every 15 minutes if she wants. But if she's lying to begin with, it doesn't matter. So validity is 1. Does it do what it's supposed to do? 2, the extent which different observers get the same findings, that is consistency or reliability. Okay. Look at 29. Man on the street interviews are examples of what? Just the man on the street.
Is that 4?
That is correct. Those are just random. Hey, you over here, you over there. We got to my survey? Exactly. Okay. 30. In an experiment, the control group is what? Remember, we have an experimental group and we have a control group. So 1, the same as experimental group, except for the introduction of a causal variable. 2, never tested before and after the introduction of the experimental variable. 3, always given a placebo. 4, chosen at random. Okay, so my control group gets nothing. The experimental group gets a drug. The control group doesn't get anything. So it's not 1. 3 says are always given at random. That's not true either. I'm sorry, 3 says are always given placebo. That's not true. Okay, the control group may get nothing. They may get a nocebo. So the answer is 4. In a true experiment, both are randomized. Okay, so remember, in a group, and when I'm doing experiment, any kind of research, the experimental group gets the drug. The control group can get a placebo, but they don't have to. They may get a nocebo or they get nothing. But either way, a true experiment, they're chosen at random. Okay. 32. In a normal distribution, the percentage of all cases within 2 standard deviation of the mean is what? That's a rule. 68, 95, 99. So the second standard deviation is what? It's a rule. 68, 95, 99. The first one is 68. The second one is
95.
Exactly. It's a rule. It's a rule. 95. The third one is going to be 99. It's a rule. Math never changes. It's a rule. Okay. So within the second standard deviation, that just means that up into the 95th percent, everything in that is in that range. 68 is the first, 95 is the second, 99 is the third. Facts are facts are facts. 2 times 2 will always equal 4. Okay, look at number 37. The measure of central tendency that provides the least amount of information. The measures of central tendency, that is the 50%, that is the middle of my bell curve, right? I'm going to find the mode, median, and the mean. That's where I'm going to find them. The one that gives me the least amount of information is actually the median, the number in the exact middle. Perfect. The one in the exact middle gives me the least amount of information. Perfect. Good on that one. Okay. Number 39, the type of sampling that involves a population that has an equal chance of being included in the sample is what? Everybody's got the same chance. That is random. That is random. Perfect. A couple of those things, quota sampling. A quota means I need so many people or so many people of women or so many men. So sometimes once I've done my sampling, I'll go back and try to find 20 more people, 20 more women, 20 more Black people, 20 more Chinese people, because I want it to match, right? If I'm doing that, we're down. If I want it to match the population, right? Okay. Look at number 47. Select the range of possible values of the correlation coefficient. The correlation coefficient is the R value, the closest it gets to 1, right? So -1 or +1, it doesn't matter. That is 4. That is 4, exactly. That's what you'll always see, the correlation coefficient. Got it, got it, got it. Okay, guys, I got to wrap you up. Ask me questions. Have you seen other research or assessment terms that I didn't cover today that you're dying to know?
I had a question on Pocket Prep. I had did, one of the test questions.
Yeah.
And there was one that was asking about what approach to social work involves lying to clients for their own good? And then the option was self-determinism perspective, paternalistic orientation, primary perspective, and deontological perspective. The answer was paternalistic orientation. I guessed on it and I got it right, but I've never heard of that term.
So paternalistic means that daddy's right. Big brother's right. A lot of my Asian population, that's the dad is right. So when I'm doing research, okay, the assumption is I am doing what's good for the community. So I get to make that decision. Deontological means like God, your deity. Paternalistic just means I'm the wise old father and I know what's good for you. So it is okay to lie to your clients as long as at the end they know. So when you're getting a placebo, right, you're in the control and experimental group, you don't know which one you're getting. So it's really okay to say, hey. And then at the end, though, we're going to explain to them what really happened. So that's what that means.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Other questions? Okie dokie, guys, it has been a pleasure. I'm going to stop recording, and when I stop recording, it'll be in the chat box. I will go back and I will upload it to YouTube later. I also